A very good evening from Super League HQ. A slightly tired Super League HQ today. It's been a fairly busy weekend of streaming. We had a guest on Fools on Friday, which kept us chatting well past midnight Friday night and Saturday morning. I was on a Royal Rumble watch along live stream last night till about 5 a.m. But here I am today, ready to go. And I'm delighted to say, for the first time in what seems ages, I both have a co-coms and I will be on screen with someone that it feels like an absolute eternity since I was able to have a proper chat with on screen. So without further ado, let's say hello and good evening to Steve Wright. How are you, pal?
Good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, mate. Good, thank you. I was just saying, and we were saying off camera, it seems ages since me and you've been on screen together. But what's new? What's happening? What's going on in the life of Wright, shall we say?
There's not too much dissimilar, really, mate. Just alterations getting happening at home for my little lad getting his own bedroom, which my brother's doing all for me. What's probably a 15 grand job, costing me about 1,200, 1,300 quid. So, because he's a gem of a bloke, he's my brother. But apart from that, just plenty of work, just really busy. And but no, it's good. It's good to be back on. Everybody can see my ugly mug again. I know it's been a while, and we'll see how tonight pans out.
No, absolutely. Let's dive straight in then, and we'll have a quick chat about the infamous Hill of Dudley. Starting the night in 9th place. It's kind of a weird season, this 10 games completed already, isn't it? Because if you take certain sections of it, the table still looks quite tight. But the fact that we've already got, say, a 6-point gap between top and 8th, and looking down the bottom as well, there's also an 11-point gap between 6 and 14. The gaps are there, but they're just bunches of closeness, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, as most people do, be selfish looking at yourselves. Massive to get 3 points tonight. I think we need 3 points if we are going to keep pace. Them teams at the top are looking extremely strong. I think, obviously, I watched Late Limbs, and you were talking about the ages of teams. It turns out that we were youngest. I know we have got a few lads that are a bit that way inclined, but they're still. I mean, obviously, look at where Joe Cole's performed last season and this season. I think I do believe age is probably just a little bit of a number with it all. He's done very well as Joe Cole. I mean, especially last season, season 1, and then he's carried it on into this season. I mean, 7.6, which I noticed in my pack, which. But because he's had a couple of sixes, I believe, last couple of games. But yeah, it's clumping up, and I think it actually shows the testimony actually have. I do believe it's the last season and this season's as tightest it's completely ever been.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's also just fascinating to see how certain clubs are going. Some are kind of sticking to their methodology. Others are mixing it up a little bit. It was, and that's in all things. That's in their tactical approach, in their defined 11s versus a squad game. It's about those who took the option even of looking at out of league signings against not doing so. There's a vast difference this year in team approaches, I think.
Yeah, I mean, obviously tonight I've gone back to what I were planning on playing the whole season out of. I thought, regardless of a 3-0 defeat away at a very strong Aggies team, I thought it was fairly evenish. We had I think we had a shot on target more than them. They created a little bit more, but it just didn't sit right. It felt like we were easily got at quite a bit. So gone back to something that obviously we one less on target, so it was fairly evenish. But yeah, it's one of them. So we've gone back to where a strength lies in his DMCs, I believe. Vogel's out for 3 weeks, which I found out in my pack, and so sticking Milevsky on that left, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's good to see the way a couple of other teams have gone. I mean, Sloss had a slight little resurgence. It's going to be really interesting to see how they got tonight. I mean, Jamie obviously came in great guns last season when he took over from Odger. He's made the team his own a little bit. Has he weakened it? Has he strengthened it? I don't know. It's hard to say because he's again. I mean, I'm not going to talk about chopping and changing, but he's been a bit chopping and changing between one at back where he did really well, with between two at back, and the big one for me is obviously East Coast Northern Burn. It's two powerhouses of the league, and I'm sure that'll be a really exciting game whenever that one comes round.
Absolutely. We had a request from Jens to go later, assuming he wouldn't make it, but I have seen him in the chat, so I won't worry too much about that. So the only one I've just seen in the chat was Rox asking for early. So let's start with Exiles. They are at home to Badgers. They have, for the first time this season, a fit Nicholas Anelka, and they mix the formation up a little bit. And the thing that interested me when I was putting this together was Veron in the DM role with the forward arrow, kind of similar to what he did last year. But then you've got the more defensive Gravison playing in front of him.
Yeah, with an arrow in himself as well. I think that's different. I mean, this is a formation Roxy's really adept with. Season one of the small horse. I'm not saying it to go or anything. We beat his side in season one of the small horse in the final, and this with the way he's set up with players he trusts, players he knows. He's obviously tried bringing a lot of players in. This it's still not an overly rock side, I don't believe, but the formation itself, that diagonal arrow from AMC has worked for him in home saves and in other leagues he's been involved with. And as you know, Veron in DMC with an arrow at White Rose before everything happened. What happened? Obviously, we drafted him, we sold him, got him back, and he did bits in DMC for White Rose as well. So he's got the stats to be able to do it, and getting somebody like that on ball a bit further back, I think it's definitely a bit like Van Bommel. He played the way I set him up last time. He got a 6, and he's been playing really well all season. I think there's just something to do with 3 DMCs and getting your outside too in a bit more attacking roles, and it definitely works.
No, absolutely. Let's have a look at the opposition then. Badgers, they don't make too much in the way of alterations. They're without Klompe tonight, so Okoronkwo it is that comes in to partner Valgarin. And then the only other change, Elbear coming in on the bench as an option.
I mean, for me, I'd probably have Valgaeren and Okaronko other way around. Valgaeren's left-footed. I think that's what I'm believing. But it's a tactic that's stood him well for a long time now. So you can understand the no changes, the minimal changes. Obviously, going for personnel. I just think it's a very, very solid team, and the way you're looking at two sides lining up fairly similarly with a lot of players in a lot of positions. It's going to be it feels like it's going to be a bit of a grind for whoever gets this one over the line.
Well, let's get straight to it then. Game number 1. Can I ask you for a prediction, please?
With Rocks having 2 at back, I'm going to go 1 apiece, mate.
1 apiece. Another high-scoring affair for the league's most entertaining side. Predicted by CoComs. Seeing Anelka, Veron and Raoul's name all in nice and early for Exiles. That'll please the boss. And there it is, Anelka with his first goal for Exiles. He has broken his duck at the second time of asking. He is off and running. Giggs, Saviola, all involved. Smut saying in the chat, it's a Rocks game, so 0-0. That's not to be. Gravison goes in the book. 2 minutes being added on. Tato saying we don't do away games. So close to an equaliser on the stroke of half time, but it didn't, or it wasn't converted. And Exiles, despite being under a fair bit of pressure looking at those stats, go in at the break 1-0 up, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the strange thing about this game is sometimes text don't really show the full thing about the game, and there's plenty of games where I think I've been on top and I've looked and you've been getting a bit of an idea, and they've created loads of their badges without it showing in the text. It feels like there's only a matter of time before there's a goal going to come from them. It's just, but Rock. I never thought Nicholas Anelka would be a Rocks type player. I mean, although he loves his Mason Javan, who is probably as sulky, if not worse, than Anelka. But yeah, I think there's still more goals to come, and 1-0's probably looking a bit of a daft prediction in a minute, considering how much chances have gone on.
Well, Rox has asked for the arrow to be removed from Gravison, so I will certainly do that. In the meantime, let me click over the stats to the away side. And Simeone impressing in the defensive midfield role, rating a 9 at half time. Everyone else is either on a 6 or 7.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously he's a quality player, especially your first 2 seasons in terms of a Super League. I think going into season 3, he might just start. Although I know Greavesy were always wonder if they're old enough, they're good enough. As long as you keep playing them, the stats stayed to where they are. There's just a lot of talent there that can still carry on creating, and I think they're definitely going to get a goal here. Badges, it's just a case of what Exiles can have in reply.
So the change being put forward by Badgers, Salihamidzic coming off for Agahawa. And that's it for now. And Tate also saying battering another team away, but can't put it in the net is what it is. I haven't seen anything else from Rox. I presume it was just that tactical tweak that he wanted, and we will resume to 60. And so close to a second for the home side, straight from kickoff. As we've reached the hour mark. And Duggan saying, I've gave Rox a load of shit over the last few weeks, but going from Batistuta and Saha to Nelka is night and day. Very true. We're at the hour point, still 1-0. Costanzo still impressing in the net for the home side. Gravison, the only player on a yellow, and no real conditional issues. Looking at that subs bench, Sorin, Saha, Kutsov, can you see any changes, or will Rox be quite content with what he's seen so far?
I mean, maybe sorry for centre, looking at players and how they go on. I'm not a massive centre fan myself. I know he's a -2, and I know he can develop really well. But especially this early on in game, Sorin's more of a proven player. We're always a go-to when we first start game. 10 million from Cruzeiro, just a bit, get rid of all my budget on him. So I've always really liked him. But no, it's if he's doing that and he's trying to keep soliding it up, getting Veron in centre midfield, just obviously try to get a little bit more out of him, isn't it?
Yeah, no, definitely. As for the away side, Nicky Butt joins Simeone on rating a 9. Desai as well, their partner in that trio, moving his rating up to an 8. So clearly doing a solid job in that midfield. No yellow cards to worry about, and no conditional issues. We've got a new name joining us in the chat. Good evening. No, we don't play Wigwam tactics in the Super League.
No, it's always one of them when you get people dropping in from time to time from all these other countries, and look, everybody can play the game how they want and enjoy it how they like, but it's nice not to play it as if you're trying to get over somebody as opposed to just dominating somebody because of how things are in the background.
So we've got Valgarin coming off for Larson, put him central up top. Nicky Forenko to MC with a forward arrow and centralise Okoronkwo 1-3-3-0-3. What do you make of that change for badges?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to happen. I mean, if you're gonna lose, sometimes is it worth trying to go for it and get a goal or two back as opposed to if you're losing already? There's half an hour left. You know, it's one of them. In his head, he's probably lost as it stands, so you might as well go for it.
Absolutely. And there's the equaliser. Oh, it's been ruled out. Giggs was offside when he supplied the ball to Nicky Butt. Here come the home side again. Oh, it's just off the post. 75 now on the clock. 77. Anelka! And he's doubled it. And a fully fit Anelka could be a real difference maker for Exiles. He's scored 2 now tonight and has surely put the game beyond their visitors. Tater saying just need a goal as may as well take a little gamble. Away we suck. And then agreeing that Anelka is a huge difference to this Exiles team. Stats in the end, fairly equal in terms of chances created. Badges slightly better in terms of forcing the goalkeeper to work. Also had that goal disallowed at the crucial time, but that's a massive result for Exiles, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at that, they've had slightly better of it in terms of chances created, and everything else were fair enough even, so it's just been a case of Anelka being clinical. And I mean, let's be honest, up until the last iteration, were he really a big sort of go-to player? I mean, I know when I first joined, everybody likes I was desperate for a striker, and that's what Bloody Toldo offered him, and he was crap throughout the whole save. Throughout the first iteration I were involved with, but last two, he's really come to the fore, and I think he's holding his value, and it's a massive game changer for Rocks, and it just shows he might think he's been boring, but it's a very competitive league. So,
looking at the away side, we know through the stats that were published that Swan had put out and Smuts had highlighted, and I know even Taylor was talking about it himself earlier, that they're not the best away from home, but looking at those ratings and looking at the stats, perhaps shouldn't be too concerned because the performance levels are there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you wouldn't think that were a 2-0 defeat of a performance, really. And Nicky Butt, I know he's dropped down from a 9 to an 8. I know he had his goal disallowed, and he's got something there, and I'm sure he'll just stick with it, roll with it, and move on to the next game, get back at home, and I'm sure he'll get another 3 points.
Absolutely. And next up, we go to the game that you said you were interested to see what happens as Haggis entertain a resurgent Sloths. Haggis make just the one change. Carlos Shax starts in place of Pires, who drops to the bench. Juan Gomez also gets a place on the bench as well. If I remember correctly, it was against your side. Vieri got his first, second, and third goals of the season last time out. So you've had a fairly recent look at Haggis. They sit 5th in the table at the moment, 17 points from 10 games. What do you make of their title credentials this year?
Well, I mean, obviously they're not the not going at it like they did at the start of last season. I mean, obviously Scott's been involved with bringing Olivier Monterrubio in, who again used to be a really home safe favourite for me until when you get more into the game and more as you get a bit older, you stop signing players that you did in them early days because you know the players that can do a little bit more. But absolutely amazing debut for him. Be really interesting to see if he can keep that up. But this setup it stood him really well in terms of last season, this season. Guigu starting over Juan Gomez, who I think after Rox brought him in at Agis proved to be a really, really good player. I know you're a big Guigu fan. He did really well. Did really well for Dudley Hill in his sporadic appearances before he went to Devil's Seal. So it's not too hard to see, but it's a good solid side. It just seems a little bit to me. Let's say you're looking at Monterrubio. Yes, he had a cracking debut. You're looking at like your Guigu, and then Jack's playing where he hadn't really hit the heights like he did for Dimble and AMC. Just maybe a couple of little tweaks. Maybe if he's got any transfers and anybody's got any transfers left. But I think they're a knocking bit for top six as it stands anyway.
Okay. Let's move on then to the away side. I was looking at ages because I had to pick my Australia squad. Tactics-wise, he's kept the narrow, but a couple of little tweaks from Alf as well, including Figo making his debut.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a post earlier him saying it'd be interesting to see how the Haggis lads get on with Figo, making runs from there. Obviously, AMCs, regardless whether there's two or three, with Dagenham also a striker, a very Alf thing from the old days at Stackington and what have you. It's very congested in there where he's got three centre midfielders where there's no centre midfielders. So, I mean, obviously everybody talks about game engine, etc. Could it be overrun, that central area, because of wingers ploughing forward? Like I said, how well this narrow's done. And I know Martin's there in an advisory role and probably... I bet him and I'll probably never speak. He just nice having his name about the place again. But yeah, the narrow against what's tended to be sort of a formation that's really dominating all three DMCs is really like the go-to at the minute. As you know, formations come and go, and we see trends. It's hard to call. I mean, let's be honest. I guess should put a couple of goals past this, maybe win by 2 or 3. But there's always that element of mystery with Alf's mystery men. Okay,
let's find out whether it's the mystery men or the team that are expected to put 2 or 3 that come up with the goods. Busy opening 10-15 minutes. Both sides seemingly having a bit of the ball as well. I've seen Van Nistelrooy and Vieri's names though, so you always feel it's only a matter of time with Haggis when they've got their big men both playing together up top. But speaking of big men up top, Emil and Penza on 35 minutes gives the away side the lead. And what a goal that could be at both ends of the table. That is for sure. Approaching half-time, Haggis fail to level things up. And it's the away side that go in at the break at the lead with their only shot on goal.
Yeah, I mean, does that lead to I guess, keeper 4 or 5? Maybe not. A lot of times you don't get it. We just one on target sometimes. But, yeah, I mean, Alf would be delighted. I don't think Ian needs to... I think he needs to hold his 4 at the minute until 60 minutes. That's just my opinion. But if you're a Sloths man, you're absolutely delighted.
Yeah, you mentioned that keeper rating a 6, conceded from the only shot. No fitness worries, no discipline issues. So yeah, I would fully support your theory there that Ian should hold his nerve and at least see it through to 60.
I just don't feel there's enough on bench that could change the game for them enough compared to what's in there. Maybe, like I say, maybe just Gomez on for Guigu, but he's having a reasonable enough game. He's doing all right. His two tackles is one have been key, so he's doing something anyway. So
as for Sloths, a lot of 6s in their ratings, and Alephropoulos clearly having a decent game. He's rating an 8 at halftime. Zidane seeing plenty of the ball. Alf's desperate to make it work with him, isn't he?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I've heard on the grapevine the prices they were asking for him before the season started. Led you to believe how much of an important player he believes he is for him. I mean, the big thing for me is why is extra Berea making so many tackles up there, unless it's putting pressure on them centre halves. And but do you know what? It's working for him at the minute. Adilson, I think I let go to Sloths. Dan brought him into the Super League at Gazelles, and it looks a very, very good version of him as well. Probably maybe shouldn't let him go, in fairness, with my AMC issues at the minute.
So there was no change at half-time for Sloths. Haggis just switching their strikers around. A fair amount of time went by, so we paused it on 68. No alteration to the score, but plenty of Haggis pressure. But Sloths, as well as being clinical in front of goal the last couple of games, they've also shown to have a certain defensive steeliness, haven't they? Considering they only play with 2 centre-backs and 1 DM.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know if that's trying to break through them 3 CMs, but them 3 CMs that are playing there are all very, very attack-minded players. So I don't know, but as long as it's continuing, Alf will be happy. And I still feel there's another goal in this one way or the other. And unfortunately, I don't overly see it coming Sloth's way, because it just feels like they're really on back foot.
I will switch over to Sloths while we wait news from Haggis. I mean, it's still lots of 6s in terms of ratings. West on the yellow. Alephropoulos is still the outstanding player for the away side. But again, you look at their bench and you would probably say there wasn't too much there to alter things. So,
no, definitely, mate. I mean, when you look, he's got Par Zetterberg and George Costa on bench. His centre halves are doing all right enough. And where would Zetterberg come on? I don't know. I don't know. I think it's definitely in a as-is moment for me, because it seems very threadbare, doesn't it? Even though the 11's doing all right and they're winning away, I guess.
We are getting changes from the home side. So we've got swap the strikers back, please. Perez for Vieri. So hat-trick last time out, being dragged this time. Perez right mid, Jacques in. Okay, so like this. Is this what we're thinking?
I mean, it seems to me that's maybe what.
And then, wait, Gomez off for Petkov. I think he means on for Petkov.
Yeah, I'm guessing on. Which, to be fair, which a little bit surprising. He were brilliant last season, getting assists galore from that position with Petkov, as much as he's probably normally a left midfielder as well. Who did really well for Dan in previous iterations. Very good player. I really like him. But yeah, be interesting in that.
Alf is also making a tactical alteration. He's going to swap Enrique and Figo.
I think that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense to me. That he can play midfield very well, can Enrique. So yeah.
Okay, let's see if the changes help either side then. Alf reminding everyone again that they concede late goals. 75 now on the clock. Jacques Guigou, neither could convert. It's still all the home side here. Are they going to get caught out with a counter-attack, though? Figo floats in the corner. Gomez clears. 85 now on the clock. Holland. And Alephropoulos kicks it field. Enrique picks it up. Now Gomez takes over. Foul. Matt Holland goes in the book. Perez to take the free kick. 4 minutes added on. Del Vecchio picks it up. Said. But Adilson manages to clear. And then Penza gathers it up. And he's on his own. Gomez is being called over. He's been booked. Free kick to the away side, which Figo takes. Cuenca with the save into those 4 minutes of added on time. Enrique, West, Holland. Adilson, he's hit the post. And Gomez picks it up. And now Haggis countering to try and level things up. They get a free kick. Perez to take it. Addo heads it clear. So much action in injury time. Van Nistelrooy, Jacques! And Efapoulis with the save. Cannavaro and another save. Van Nistelrooy this time, it's off the crossbar. What is happening? Haggis did everything in that final sequence but score. And at full time, well, a big result, as I said earlier, at both ends of the pitch. Sloths win again, this time 1-0 away at Haggis. Steve, that was chaos.
I mean, them last probably 10 minutes of that were unbelievable. I mean, that should not be a 1-0 game, should it? It's a change up. It's working for him at the minute. We know I fell foul of it for a bit. Narrow does well for a little spell, but it doesn't last. But as long as if they're getting results in this moment in time, putting themselves a little bit away from danger at Wooden Spoon. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a champion in there, isn't it? Really, in essence. But well done to Alf for grinding a couple of results out over the last couple of weeks.
Duggan here, quite right, saying that's Sancte, Fulchester and Haggis that Sloths have done without conceding a goal, all playing the 3 DMC's wingers formation, and was 2 90th minute goals away from 12 out of 12. Dragons-esque style turnaround, he's saying about the Sloths. Despite being on the losing side, Van Nistelrooy picks up man of the match for his 9 rating. And again, yeah, you can. It's one of those similar to what we were saying about Badgers earlier. You look at the stats, you look at the ratings, and you just kind of chalk it up to one of those nights.
Yeah, definitely, it happens. I mean, obviously, like Ian just saying in comments there, that a bit of a champion. It happened on my first night ever when I played Ian, and he had a really solid side, and I played something I'd never really played before, and. You know, it happens. Champions happen. They happen a lot less in the league than they do in the game. But yeah, I just think all credit to Alf for doing what he's done this last couple of game weeks.
Absolutely. Smuts has requested to go next because he's falling asleep. So we'll do that. They host Vikings, and he said on the recent episode of Limbs that these next couple of games were critical to their season because I think they've got 4 home games in 4 home games in a row, and he has absolutely atrocious away form. Here's the team selected for tonight. Clivert leads the line with Frank in behind. Helguera partners Vieira in that DM line. The one that stands out for me, and it's possibly as much due to available options as it is anything else. I'm not liking the look of Liverani out in that sort of left wing back position, especially knowing he's got Placente in the reserves not doing anything.
I think if you look a little bit deeper, I think he can play wide. He can play left midfield. I think he's more of a creative assister. I think that's probably why he's never really hit the heights in the league really should have. I mean, to be fair, I don't think he really does if you're buying on non save. I'm not a massive fan of him. I brought him in at White Rose, and he got a 9 with 2 assists on his debut and did 3 6s after that. I just don't think he's capable of being a consistent fixture in anybody's side at this level. But I'd be probably more inclined, if I'm honest, to play Alex there. As we've known that there's been plenty of midfielders and plenty of forward rights like Mackay did for you playing at wing back. So they've done good jobs. But interesting to see, and he'll probably now you've commented on it, he'll probably go get an 8 and an assist or something like that. So.
Almost certainly. A couple of alterations with personnel becoming available again for Vikings. So Ferdinand and Lasisi are back together as a partnership. Paredes shifts over, so Jeremy's can come back in as well. The rest, as was from previous, Kaladze dropping to the bench. Vikings have looked very good for the most part, haven't they? 2 defeats in the 10 games, top of the league, a point clear currently of Bern. When you consider at the end of last season, Jens was considering his position, and it just wasn't quite happening. I mean, Jens is one of those who I think everyone likes. So I imagine, aside from your own club, you're quite happy to see the turnaround for Vikings and them kind of fulfilling potential.
Oh, massively, yeah. I mean, the one thing I would probably, if I were in his shoes, I'd probably be starting Robbie Keane over Brozex. Brozex has some, if I remember rightly, some pretty poor performances over the last couple of games, couple of fights in there. Yeah, but he's looking quite strong for a season 2 as well. I mean, like I say, you've got to remember that it's random players that develop in this league. Because of the training, not the players you expect to develop. I've got one at the minute that I'm really tempted to play, but I know Duggan will be going mad about my AMC lottery that I've always done in Ricardo George. He's looking very, very good. But apart from that, it's a very solid side, and he's getting numbers out of Nedved, playing in centre midfield with an arrow. So
certainly is. Not quite the worst we've ever seen. A slight kit clash here, but nothing too drastic. Score prediction, please.
I mean, the
Vikings, who I think have the best away record, or Jens has possibly the best away rating of the currently active Super League managers, and Smuts, who is up there as the best home records of the Super League managers.
I mean, it all says a draw, doesn't it? And apologies to Carfus, but I just feel a sneaky 1-0, probably Brozek, because I've mentioned it. Vikings win.
Okay. Well, Sokoviak gets the goal on 5 minutes to give the away side the lead. Franca trying to level things up quickly, fails to convert. Alex seen plenty of the ball, it seems. Yellow card for Vieira, which means he will be missing for the next game. Foss want a penalty, not given. 2 minutes being added on at the end of this half, and nearly so close to levelling things up there just before the break. It's over quite quick, that, but plenty of action still, it seemed, as Vikings go in 1-0 up.
Yeah, I mean, there weren't a lot of blankness, were there? Where sometimes you see it in games. Obviously, they've limited Foss to spraying it from everywhere, but when you're looking, he's got the likes of Kaladza, who I'd still take back tomorrow, even though I've got an abundance of AMCs on the bench. It shows how much he's got strength in terms of defensive wise. It's just getting them attacking players to click, which he has done this year. And let's be honest, I think this is the best Thierry Henry we've probably seen in league, because he's finally getting played up front rather than AMC. But they're never out of it, or am I Foss Road? So.
Foss have had the more attempts slightly, but none of them falling to Cliver, unfortunately, for the home side, and none of them on target. As I said, that Vieira yellow does mean he misses the next game, which is obviously a big loss for them as well. We spoke about it recently, how they're supposed to be this, or they were, the big thing last year was they were going to be a season 2 team. Performances like this, regardless of how good Vikings have been this year, does that kind of negate the argument a little bit?
I mean, I'm looking at the players that are playing, if I'm totally honest, and you're looking at Kevin Offland, who, let's be honest, I think he's pretty meh throughout to quote one of your words.
See, we've argued about this for years, because I think he's a superb defender.
His stats say everything. I just feel like he just doesn't quite hit the heights you expect to. Van der Vaart, you expect season 2. I think I've only seen one good Van der Vaart, which were playing for Tato. But he's talking about a season 2 team, but there's not much young players in that team as you're looking at it. I know he's got a couple of people out, but there's not people there in that team at this minute that you're going to say are going to improve massively for season 3, say. So yeah, there's a lot to be said about that.
Maka seems to have joined us and looks in good spirits. He just said duck and then off. Jens is going straight in with an alteration, keen on for Brozek, which is the one you said before kickoff.
Yeah, I mean, and one thing I will do, I'll give Macca I loved his absolute champion of a draw. Well, I say champion of a draw. Dimble sprayed 11 shots from outside box wide, but his tactical insight into his 1-1 draw against Dimble I really enjoyed that.
So we've had the change there, and I can see that Smuts has gone as is as well. So we will go to 60 and see what the game offers next. And it's a very quick goal as Henri goes to 10 for the season. And the away record is going to remain intact, while the home record takes a bit of a beating, it seems. We've reached the hour mark, 2-0 then, and Nigmatulin throwing in one of those absolute howlers that he is capable of doing, unfortunately, in this case for Foss Road.
Yeah, I mean, all keepers are capable of it massively, but there's certain ones that might do it once a season, possibly twice over a 26-game season. I think he's a fantastic goalkeeper, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I think it's just one of them where, I mean, although saying that, I've got Magnus Edman on my bench, who, if you look into him in terms of the game engine, is absolutely unbelievable, but he still slings them in. So it's going to happen at all times. You're going to get a 4 or 5 for a keeper at least twice a season, but I just can't see too much improvement coming from anything that could change on bench.
So on that note, so in the last 5, it's been 8-9, 6-4, 7, and now we're on another 4.
Yeah, he's living off that 8 and 9, isn't he? Really.
As for Vikings, solid ratings. I mean, look at this. We've got a 9 for Cafu, a 9 for Jeremies, a 9 for Paredes. Robbie Keane having an impact as well off the bench. The CC is on the yellow. No real fitness concerns. And it just looks like Vikings are kind of easing themselves into another week top of the table.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Paredes for me is one of them who Dan Megaros put a hell of a lot of faith in, who were massive. The sheer fact that he's keeping Gladstone on bench shows that he just keeps performing week in, week out. And they've got a lot of depth of Vikings at the minute, and they're going to take some stopping. They're going to take some real stopping.
Smuts is altering things up just to try and... do you still want the arrow on him? I'll keep it on for now if you can just confirm. He's just trying to mix it up a little bit, try and make something happen and give the league leaders something to think about. So Santa Cruz partnering Clive up top.
It looks very familiar, that tactic.
Doesn't it just?
Yeah, I'm sure there was some star one with that tactic, but anyway, I ain't got the personnel to properly do it that much. Well, I have, but I don't want to because I've got so many DMCs to leave out. But no, it looks a little bit more for me. That looks far more rounded. It looks far more as if it could create something, not because of something I used to play. But it's a very uphill battle, isn't it?
I had the strikers the wrong way around, so I've swapped that over now. Santa Cruz on the left, Clive on the right. Jens has gone as is, so we will resume the action on the assumption that nothing else coming through from the small horse account. I'll give him 10 seconds to be sure. No, he says cheers, that'll do. We resume the action. And as we resume it, Vikings nearly make it free. 10 minutes go by with nothing happening. And there's the final whistle. The subs had and tactical change had absolutely no impact whatsoever. And Vikings cruise to victory.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, from where they were, they've had another shot off target since half time. It just shows how competent this Vikings team is. And one thing I will say is, I think I massively like that away kit that they've got as well. I think it's really, really nice colours. But yeah, it's a machine that keeps ploughing on. I feel privileged that I managed to get a draw out of them.
No, absolutely. Nick Matulin, as we said, a big influence on that result with his poor performance. And yeah, kind of covering the same ground we already spoke about. This isn't indicative of a team that, like you say, that are improving as time goes on. They're capable of results. We've seen they're capable of results, but they're not consistent enough, despite having some quality players within that team. There just doesn't seem to be enough quality players to have the level of consistency of the likes of, say, a Coast or a Burn or in this case, a Vikings.
Yeah, definitely. He's had massive out of Everton. Everton's there with another 8. Liverpool has done okay. There's a base there of a very good side. I think it's just finding that thing to make it click. But I think he's putting his eggs in a little bit of basket with a couple of players, as in Van der Vaart and Rocky Santa Cruz, who, yes, you can get it out of an unknown save, but for some reason, some players just can't get anything over the line at this level when you're not playing against AI every week.
And Henry up to double figures for the season.
Yeah, it just shows that whatever iteration comes next or anything like that is massively putting his value up in there, as we find with a lot of players do when they have spurts every now and then.
Definitely. We're not doing Dudley Hill next, as you're here, so let's just go to the top of the list. And we'll go to Sancte versus Fulchester. Now, I mentioned earlier about managers doing things their own way. Fulchester, they got 1-1 last time out. They've only won 1 of their last 5. They've stuck with it from the draw with East Coast. Interestingly, and I'm not sure if it's an oversight on Macca's part or, again, it's just a manager doing things their own way, Serginho, well below fitness, but staying in the team.
He came in, and I got Serginho from Dragons donkeys back in the last the first iteration I were involved with, and I think he's an absolutely unbelievable player. I remember talking to Greasy about him, and he thinks he's every bit as good as Roberto Carlos, but Carlos gets far more assists. But this is more Macca. He fell foul of trying to fit a void of what people are playing and what's been successful when it's formations that don't suit him, don't play the way he's ever played. But now he's gone back to himself, and he got a really good result against East Coast. And I think playing his players in right positions and stuff, he's got ways and means, and I think he can still be a threat for definite.
As for Sancte, I did see as soon as the packs went out, Duggan would just sent out the most relieved post I'd seen in a long time that Jorgatos was finally fit again.
Well, I think Gallardo's been playing who hadn't done anything much, and he's needed that on that left hand side. Obviously, Steve Finnan's been fantastic for him on right-handed midfield. Everybody knows what I think about Steve Finnan. But in terms of a midfielder, I've never played him on MR, and he's putting numbers out. But that is a very, very strong side from back to front there. Obviously, I know he's got Archie back in. I just think maybe Ronaldinho playing up top, but he needs to fit Archie back in at the same time. I know he went back to 2 AMCs, didn't really work, so he's gone back to something that's working. And do you know what? He's done bits before playing up top as Ronaldinho, and I'm sure this is going to be a very interesting game.
Score prediction, please.
2-1 Sancte.
Well, it's a very quick 1 for Sancte on just 2 minutes gone, and then Zaghi opens the scoring.
Best Inzaghi ever back way again.
Yeah, definitely. Fulchester trying to level things up. They're certainly applying a bit of pressure. And there it is, Constantinu against his former club. Constantinu does level things up for Fulchester. It's 1 apiece. And still both sides come forward. This is a real humdinger of a contest, that's for sure. But will we get the goals to match the intent? So close to a second for Sancte. And another yellow card, and the whistle goes. That was a very entertaining 1-1 as first halves go. 11 attempts between the two sides, 7 of which were on target. Very similar in terms of the stats towards the bottom of the screen there as well. Interesting game, that, Steve.
Yeah, it did seem a bit end-to-end. I think probably you saw a little bit more of Sancti in the text, but no, I think both managers will be pretty happy, thinking they can both go into the second half, maybe create a little bit more. I think they both feel like they're going to have a chance of getting a result over the line for definite.
Duggan in the past has been one of the few managers who really does take caution when it comes to the players on cautions. Both the wingers and Argel being on a yellow might be food for thought for him. Ratings look fine, conditions look fine. He has gone as is, as I say that. Do you think as is the right call to make at this juncture?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really bother about yellow cards personally, and Stephen has been class. He's been crowing on about George Art's feedback, so he's not really going to whip either of them two. Argel has been an absolute man mountain for him as well. So the 3 players that have been probably upper ends of being the best players this season, I can't see him making any changes with them. And like I say, I agree. I'd have gone the same way.
Quite average looking ratings really for Fulchester, unfortunately for Macca. Serginho's fitness continues to drop, 75% he's on now. No yellow cards, however, and options on the bench. Do you think he'll be making changes here?
I mean, Constantino doing bits, you're definitely going to keep him in. Robin, he started... Did he start last season on fire, and then he seems to have fizzled out a little bit? I mean, to be fair, I don't think there's anything on that bench. Well, I mean, you got Materazzi and Vialli with Lucio on bench, but Vialli's there with an 8. I'd probably be maybe pulling Materazzi for Lucio personally, just as trying to solid it up a little bit more, try to deal with Ronaldinho a little bit more because he'll be playing on the right hand side, and but. Richie Wellens, I don't think that 7's overly justified. He's won all 4 tackles, 3 of them being key. He's won an header, completed all his passes. I think his 7's a little bit harsh against his former.
Yeah, a bit of a harsh rating there, to be fair.
Definitely. But yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, I don't know if he's back about or not, but yeah, I think he'd probably be in there as is. Itself.
Nothing's come through thus far, so I'll give him a little while longer just in case. In the meantime, the Australia squads have been picked, and you'll see them in the next lot of news for the upcoming friendly with Trinidad and Tobago, and away from the Super League. Not that I envisage anyone really caring too much, but I have to say. And I know I mentioned it in the chat, but the Dear England thing I went to watch the other day, which caused the postponement of Thursday night Super League, really, really very, very good. And if you do get the opportunity, I would suggest it's well worth a watch. It wasn't what I expected, and it offered a lot more than I expected as well. So I won't give any spoilers away just in case, but yeah, no, I mean, we all kind of know the story because it follows Gareth Southgate's managing of England, but it covers all the major topics, but it also makes you think a little bit. So yeah, really very good if you get the opportunity.
No, maybe I'm sure it'll drop onto some illegal streaming services to be able to put it into somewhere down the line.
Still nothing from Macca, so we will just take that as he said he's having Wi-Fi trouble.
Yeah.
Well, he was in the chat literally 2 minutes ago, so nothing coming through. So I think we'll just carry on to keep the show moving, and he can change it to 60 if he so wishes. And we're approaching that 60-minute mark now. Oh, and Sancto missing a glorious chance there on the hour mark to take the lead. Back on a 6, Finnan on a 6, everyone else 7 or 8. No additional yellows here for Sancto. Still no conditional issues. What are you thinking, Steve? I mean, looking at that bench, I could potentially see a Gerrard for Finnan, possibly, just to change it. Or, I mean, do you potentially, if you want to go ultra attacking, do you put back out on the right, drop Ronaldinho back one, and put Maklas up top with Inzaghi?
Yeah, I mean, I can see Duggan's message come through already. I'd probably more inclined like he's done with the Gallardo, because he's more of an attacking winger, and obviously you've got to try and get a goal. But the Maklas for the Maklas on, and swap and run is nice. But I remember we had it were on my list for the drafting things before this iteration started, and he were going to get him first. Very good striker on home save, and I'm sure there's a place for him in Super League, but he needs to start proving it. He needs to get games before he can prove it, obviously. But yeah, I think it looks a little bit more dangerous for me. Does that for Sante?
Okay. Materazzi dropping to a 5 in the rating. Still a load of 6s in there as well. Vialli, the main sort of highlight, if highlight is the right word for Fulchester, on his 8 rating. Serginho drops now to 73% fitness. I mean, for me, and I appreciate it if Maka is struggling to get through for any particular reason, but I'd be looking at this, putting Robben out to the left wing, bringing Crespo on and going 2 up top with Ronaldo in behind.
Yeah, I mean that's his, obviously when he did his tactical masterclass thing, that was it, going a 1-2. Oh, there he is saying, but yeah, I think looking at it, I mean, I can't blame him for wanting to follow down that line of that. And probably for me, I'd probably be bringing Lucio on for Materazzi, just try and hold what they've got and try and.
I would be looking at that 5 and having Lucio on the bench. I'd be changing it, to be fair.
Yeah, he's fantastic as Lucio. He never posts great numbers, but he's always solid. Always wins all his tackles, and he probably won't average more than a 7.2, 7.3 over the season, but just having him there is always a good thing.
He's just basically he seems to be a bit preoccupied at the moment, and he's clearly there. He's just basically agreeing with what we're saying. So if the result doesn't happen, it's our fault. But
he's been occupied, so we need to worry. Look at that.
And Robben left mid 2 up rip. He's literally no clue was a manager anymore. Yes, because you didn't beat East Coast, remember? Right, let's see how these changes do then. See how much we really know, Steve. It's all looking very sancte at the moment. As I say that, Fulchester put one over the bar. Constantinu's looking busy. Into the final 10. Vialli gets shown a yellow. Free kick. Maka already saying congrats to Duggan. 86 now on the clock. Robben, Vialli, Wellens, Constantinu. Still Constantinu. Sure, Gatos does just enough. Beckham. Still Beckham. Constantinu. Ronaldo. Oh, he's put it wide. Into injury time. Is there one last chance? Wellens. Ambrosini, though. Tudor. Robben. Crespo. Constantinu can't save. Constantinu can't. With the double save. Oh, and Crespo. He could have kept the header down. Oh, and the Sancte going to nick it at the end. Oh, they tried a quick free kick, but Inzaghi fails to convert. Fulchester in that last 10 minutes suddenly came alive.
There's been a lot of, in the couple of games we've had so far, there's been a lot of late chances that have been really crossbar, keeper savings, and let's hope we're getting them all out of the way before we play.
Oh no, quite absolutely, but very, very, very entertaining second half, and probably a fair result, would you say?
Oh yeah, I mean, I know they've had a little bit more of it sanctity there. Yeah, again, you go back to text being all sanctity, but they've made a good fist of it there, a full chested, and look, a couple of changes up. He's going back to doing what Maka does, and he's ground a couple of results out. You can't knock that.
Oliver Kahn gets a 9 rating, and there was a huge double save right at the end.
Yeah, well, that's what he's there for. I know there's been comments about him. I know Martin made some comments on Duggan's feed about Khan. Is he good enough for me? If I had Oliver Kahn in my team, he'd be starting every game for me. Even if we went for 6 seasons in Super League, it'd still be good enough. That's just my personal opinion, obviously.
I think the changes certainly did help. Lucio ended up on a much better rating in his 30 minutes than Materazzi got in an hour. Robin looked busy as well. Crespo was involved. He had 2 attempts. I think Maka will be quite pleased in the end.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's a good result against a very dangerous side away from home. Get any result against any team away from home in this league is a good result. So yeah, it's something to build on, and then you can start looking at things going forward, can't you?
Definitely. Now a game I'm very interested in, Stanley versus Stackington. Stanley, who are the team threatening the establishment, so to speak. They weren't very highly tipped, but they're still sat there before a ball was kicked tonight inside the top 6. Stackington 3 points off the bottom. It's been a tough welcome, but another manager throwing disregard out the window. And this season, I think we've seen it more than ever before. Orange injuries, managers just do not care. As João Pinto comes back into the 11. There's also a few tactical alterations. So Davids, who's normally in centre mid, drops back. Sand, who's normally in defensive mid, goes forward. CMAC comes in as well. And Wes Brown comes into the central of defence.
Yeah, I mean, Peter Sand playing in defensive midfield with class for Badgers when he brought him in out of league. So maybe a little change around because Davids were unbelievable for Dragons when they did that bottom to top and they had that season where they got to the final and obviously ultimately got beat by themselves. It's a strong side, and I'm so glad that Mike's found his feet, held his nerve. He's got far better with transfers since he's all incoming. From his little spell at Astor, and it's a learning curve. Anybody that comes in, especially after people that have been in for a long time, it's a massive learning curve. You always have your favourites, as Ross is finding out. You have your favourites, and it's not always your favourite players on the game that do stand you in better stead. But he's had the result. He's got his first win, and it's nice to see the ass man against the main man from the former duo, and I'm sure it's a little bit of a grudge match.
Looking at the Stackington team, Vargas has been called up from the reserves. He plays in central midfield. We've got a correct player selected. You might remember the last time out, they beat Badgers with me inadvertently putting Koku in. But Cole does actually play this time with Dye on the other side. Kesman and Morientes, the chosen front pairing. Defoe keeps his place on the bench.
Morientes is probably, even though everybody sees him performing all the time, probably still the most underrated striker in the league. Odgie got loads of numbers out of him. But yeah, it's the way Ross played, and he had the setup with them. I think them two at wing back probably serve him a little bit better than being on the wings, but it's solid side. He's settling down a little bit from his start, and look, he'll only improve, and then next season, I'm sure he'll really start to make a bit and get a few more results.
Score prediction for this one, please.
I can't see much more than a 2-0 Stanley win.
2-0 Stanley win is the prediction from GoComs. All the early pressure, though, seems to be coming from the away side. It was a huge goal last time out for Sigalko. Will that really kickstart his season now? Well, as I say that, he opens the scoring again here. 1-0 to Stanley. Sigalko on 29 minutes. And we get to half-time in very quick. Stanley have absolutely battered Stackington. Steve, you still there? Looks like Steve has dropped his connection slightly. We'll wait for him to come back. But yeah, Stanley, 8 attempts to Stackington's 1, 4 of which are on target, none for Stackington. They've got a higher pass completion and much higher tackles percentage. Stackington are slightly better in the air, however. Looking at the ratings, starting with the home side, everyone on a 7 or higher, with the exception of Gary Neville, who's on a 6. No yellow cards, and no real fitness concerns other than maybe João Pinto, who's dropped to 85. Welcome back, Steve. On the other side of this coin, Stackington, pretty much 6s and 7s with the exception of Rayed, who is on a 5. What did you make of that first half, Steve?
Yeah, people really good. I mean, I've got a big loving for some reason for Sergei Semak, and the fact that he's sat in the centre as an attacking midfielder, stroke forward, sat in that centre midfield. He's got no assist or anything, but he's got an 8 there for my kid. I like to see it. Rayed, obviously, he had a really good game, either last game or game week before. But yeah, he's obviously going to grind it out here at Stanley, aren't they?
Well, that would be the impression you've got thus far. It's a penalty, and Sigalko, with his 5th of the season, makes it 2. And that surely puts the game beyond Stackington. It could have maybe should have been 3 as we pause the game on 63 minutes. Huge moment. Sigalko doubling up again. So 2 doubles in 2 games. And are we now seeing the real Maxim come to the floor?
I don't know. He's going in spells. Obviously, I know Ian would have been fuming the fact that he scored 2 against Burn when they beat Burn. He's ticking over. He's doing better than a lot of the strikers are doing at the minute, but he's not quite hitting the heights of scoring more than a goal a game he did for Burn. But I'm glad that Mike stuck with him. He's not felt the temptation to cash in on him, and he can only get better from here on in.
Edgar Davids was put in the more restricted position this time round, but he is excelling there tonight.
Yeah, definitely. Because they're on his own 9, and when you look at Peter Sand on a 7, for a defensive midfielder sat in a central midfield slot, you can't knock that. That's what you want. You just want him doing things and sort of defend. So yeah, I think it's they're just looking so solid, Stanley, and the way they're going, I won't be surprised to see them finishing top 6 this season.
Red continuing to struggle for Stackington today. Just a very average looking performance in terms of ratings. Seedorf, Defoe there. If you're Stackington, are you just kind of writing this one off already, or are you trying to influence the game and see if you can get 1, then maybe get 2?
I mean, I've seen his comment about he's bringing Defoe on for Rayad. I don't know. It's let's say you're playing 2 of his better players playing out of position. For me personally, I know there might be 1 or 2 other people that may feel that. But you know what? It's like I say, it's a big learning curve, and he'll come to grips with it, and then he'll start exactly like Mike has, and start doing okay. But I think the big turnaround from Mike.
Sigalko's got his hat trick. Yeah. It's now 3-0 to Stanley. We don't see many hat tricks these days, to be fair, do we, Steve? So that's huge for him as well. No,
definitely not. But I just think this turnaround from Mike, from where he was at Astor to where he is now, is testimony to him. It's massive.
No, absolutely. And there's the full-time whistle. A Sigalko-inspired Red Rose Stanley pushing Stackington to one side with ease and winning 3-0. It was a slightly better performance from Stackington, but they just couldn't really lay a glove on their hosts, could they?
No, definitely not. And it just shows the level of playing João Pinto of all people on an orange and still coming away with a 3-0 win. I think that's probably that'll delight Mike more rather than the Sigalko hat-trick. Just that little slight decisions that may be risky coming off, which again, testimony to him took to it, and I'm sure Sigalko will go and start scoring a few more.
Unsurprisingly, he gets man of the match, but just again, as we were highlighting earlier, that performance from Edgar David's crucial as well, and all the defenders getting 8s.
Yeah, that's like I said, they just sort of kiboshed everything. I mean, the big thing for me there, you've got an assist from Carlos. I know there's a penalty, 1 assist in 3 goals. It just shows the level that Maxim is actually.
Well, Sander Westerveld got an assist as well.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, goalkeeper's got an assist.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. I tell you what, that's definitely. I didn't even notice that. I'm just looking at the outfield players, but that's fantastic. Have you ever had a goalkeeper? I've never seen a goalkeeper with an assist in the league.
And there you go, Steve. I'm here to offer you new experiences.
And of all people, Sander Westerveld, he was a bit of a joke until he started playing for Bern, then did well at Agis, and I think he's ground himself out as being probably one of the top keepers in the league now.
Perhaps Stanley have become long ball merchants, and Sander just pumped it upfield and Maxim on the volley.
Yeah, it's definitely that's 100% it. But it's good to see. I like little things like that. Is what we're all here for.
The ratings didn't really. I mean, they did slightly improve, but they didn't really change too much. Defoe had very little impact coming on. Casillas dropping to a 5 again. That's his first poor performance in a while, to be fair. And we know that, again, you explained so well earlier about goalkeepers, particularly some of the younger ones. So obviously there's significant areas to improve on for Stackington, but there's also some little glimpses of promise, even in such a big defeat.
Oh, definitely. They've got the core of a decent squad. I think he needs to really, in my opinion, think about Casillas. Casillas is like the big thing about Casillas is everyone knows he's got 20 for big games. If you look behind, but he's throwing too many. I know he's had a reasonable run, but he's still throwing too many. I mean, like first game of the season was sent off, and we did what we did. But yeah, I think he's nowhere near the top end of the top goalkeepers in this league for me, unless he's playing at playoffs or in the final, as we've seen before.
We come to our penultimate game of the evening. East Coast. They had to make one change. Bishkan coming in for Michelini, who's suspended. Mendes da Silva taking his place on the bench. But apart from that, almost ironic given the opposition, but East Coast, they're having very little in the way of alterations needing to be done. So Dimble's able to kind of just keep going as is.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that centre defensive midfield pairing, and you think, as a two of a Super League, Kovalchuk. I mean, there's not anything I can tell Dimble about this game, but I found Kovalchuk, and then it became out of league for him, and he's been absolutely unreal last season, and this getting 9s from there. And Biscan's a great player. I just think you're missing the Zalias, who's massive, but you've got 2 players there. He's playing against 2 of Burn's very good AMCs. I think that's where games probably could have been won and lost. The 2 Burn AMCs against them too.
Okay. Let's have a look at the Burn team, which sees Roy Keane return. Takanadi also back in place of Fiore. So for my money, you've gone from a very good Northern Burn team to an excellent Northern Burn team.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we know you love Takenade, and I think he's
big fan.
He's more of a centre midfielder as opposed to. I mean, I got Bruno from you for him, who was looking very good back there, and you need to give him a chance sometime. But yeah, he's more of a. I'd be doing the same thing if I were dropping Takenade in. If I were in, I'd be dropping him in centre midfield and leaving Keane. I know he's a liability, a bit of a risk, but it's burning it, and they'll just keep chugging on.
They certainly will. So for the last time tonight, then please, a score prediction.
Oh, this is a tough one, mate. This is a tough one.
Okay.
2-1 either way.
2-1 either way.
Does that count?
Literally couldn't be more on the fence if you'd said a score draw. Northern Burn take the lead on 22 through Montella. So it's the away side who strike first. East Coast trying to level things up quite quickly as we approach half-time. They have through Stanic. Stanic on the stroke of half-time. And in the big, big game in the league on the night at half-time, it is 1 apiece. It seemed to go quite quick, but we've had 2 goals.
Yes, Stanic is Dimble's boy now. I like Mario Stanic myself. He's just a big brute in AMC as opposed to some of these. I mean, I know we're talking about top-end ones. You're talking about your Roy Mackay, you're talking about your Ronaldinho's, your Nikiforenko. He's just a massive brute who he hadn't hit the heights that he did from Dimble bringing him out of the league, but he's just such a reliable player to get him back into games. And I think it's... I said 2-1 either way, and it's looking... Wait a minute.
Looking then at the ratings at half-time, and we're starting with the... Have you just seen Jens's comment as well?
yeah. It's become a comment for the ages, is that, and I take a draw.
Has it just? Anything jumping out to you? I mean, I'm noticing a lack of... looking at the likes of Kuhl and Stanic, Hussein, Shevchenko, they're not seeing a lot of the ball.
No, I think the thing for me is how unbelievable Marco Liano's been since he's been at East Coast.
I think he's one of the most underrated centre-backs in the league.
Definitely. He's never really been head and shoulders above anybody. Never really done too much, but just been But I think he's outperforming anything he's ever done at Lee before, and I think it's fantastic. And yeah, Biscan there with his 8. But again, I'm sure when we go over to Burn, both sides have got a lot more to give, which I think makes them both far more dangerous than they're showing at the minute.
The As-is derby lives up to its reputation, as both managers happy to see this run through to 60. So we resume the action and see what comes next. Coast starting quite quickly. Burn with a good chance. We've reached an hour and there's no alteration to the scoreline. I know it's only game week 11, Steve, so we're not quite halfway yet. But is there a touch of sort of in-game nerve here in terms of second versus third? We know the Vikings result from earlier as well.
I probably won't say so, but when you're looking at some of them ratings and them course players, you got your big players. I mean, you Barry Ferguson, you have Yersonette on 6s. You know, Yapstam, it don't matter because Juliano's mopping everything up behind him. It's just, I don't know. It's such a solid team. You just feel like you just need that extra bit out of some of the players that should really be giving them a little bit more, especially in these big games.
Well, Ian has already gone as is. So just flashing his stats up slightly. Let's see. Mike agreeing with Jens's earlier comment that he'd take a draw. I feel Dimble is going to do something to try and affect this game. Yeah,
I mean, you look at it the same. You've got left centre back of Burn like Juliano. It must be something about him that's doing really well. 3/8 in that Burn team.
And here come the changes. So Hussein off for Rivaldo. 2 AMCs with arrows. Rivaldo on the left. What do you make of that tactical alteration?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like, who am I to ever question anything Dimble does?
That's what you're here for.
Yeah, for me personally, I'd have put Rivaldo on left wing and put Kewell in AMC, but that's just me. But I don't know.
Surprised not to see Viduka coming on the pitch?
No, I'm not really. But Dimble's forgot more than I know, so.
Well, it has petered out. Mike and Jens have got their wish, and it has ended in possibly the most even 1-1 draw of all time.
Yeah, I think both managers would be happy not to lose it. I think that's where everybody would be at the minute.
Okay. Not much at all to say here when you look at the stats. Roy Keane back in the team, getting man of the match. But yeah, it's just two very good teams cancelling each other out. This is textbook sort of Man U Chelsea from the early 2010s, isn't it?
Oh yeah, when your man at Manchester is getting an 8, it shows you that it's been a grind and it's been a tough game.
That takes us to our final game of the evening, and it is obviously your game. You are away to LSK. They are rock bottom in the league. They make one change. Vasilyuk drops to the bench. Diego Tristan starts. Everything else remaining the same from their 2-1 defeat at home to Vikings. What do you make of LSK? Does this look like a squad who should be sitting bottom of the table?
I mean, the thing for me is when you're looking at the players that are not in there, you're looking at your Novotnys, your Overmars, your Albertinis. They're not good enough. They're not normal starters. So I think his hands are tied in what he's got. I think he has some very good business lined up until obviously the rules came out. Yeah, it's a little bit worrying because
I mean, in fairness to LSK, they've had a fair amount of transfer activity.
Yeah, because one of them, the new manager. But to be fair, looking at that, he could still have some more. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, there's a couple of Tristan. I love Tristan. I said this. I met Scott. So Scott lives round the corner from where my office is. I met him for a beer a couple of times, and I said, if I draft him, I won't make a big play for him in the transfer. If I drafted Tristan, I think I'd give him a proper run. I would hoping he'd play one at back again, but then again, Vikings could only score 2 past him and concede.
He is playing one at the back.
Yeah, but they've got a lot of strength in there. I don't know how else I'd set this team up. In fairness, I'd have to have a look at it, but I think it's going for it. You're at home, you might as well have a go, haven't you?
You mentioned earlier you've mixed it up, gone back to the season 15 tactic. In a couple of interesting shouts, in my opinion, the fact that you've dropped Comodini to the bench and let Tony start was certainly an interesting one. You mentioned it earlier, Ristico's still out, but Vogel out for essentially a month now, which isn't ideal for you at all, really.
No, and he had a couple of good games to start with. I mean, Comodini's got 5 last time out. I think 6 before that. So, and Tony's had a little bit of a. He's done all right when he's played. So, just he can always come off at bench. He's come off at bench and scored this season as Comodini anyway. So sometimes I think, I mean, let's be honest. Sometimes you feel about this game that you're overthinking it in terms of, like, if I leave him out for a minute, he'll come in and score. And it's probably not the case. It's stupid bloody algorithm of it all. But my main reasoning for it all, for going back to that, were the way Van Bommel were playing, because I've had him before, and he finished on out of 24 games when he was suspended, 6.79, 6.97, whatever, and he's been playing really well. I played him as sole DMC, and he's not sole DMC. So I'll go back to trying to get some creative left and right DMCs outside of somebody that could tackle and see where it goes.
So just having a quick look at the table before we kick off. The game itself, it won't alter too much, but you said at the start in the intro how important it was to get a result tonight. So we've seen Foss lost, Sancte drew.
Yeah.
With Fulchester. Stanley won. Haggis lost. Badgers. Who did they play? I've forgotten where we are already. Badgers. Oh, they lost to Exiles as well. So very, very important game this for you.
Yeah, massively. I mean, if it comes to a point where, say, if I lost this tonight, I was 6 points away from it before it happened. I may go back to something I played at White Rose, which got me quite a few results. And then we'll
see how it
pans out.
Okay. Well, good luck to both you and Jamie on the last game of game week 11 in the Super League. And Tristan, he's been ruled off. Pizarro was offside. Nearly instant gratification for the manager, paying the Fyfie for putting him back in the 11. Dudley now starting to play after sort of a very quiet 20 minutes from them. Still looks like the home side is slightly shading it. And this is one thing, despite being bottom of the table, very rare a Jamie's side gets absolutely battered. They're normally in games, just not able to see it over the line. Half time, Steve, 0-0. And I can't imagine you're best pleased with what you've seen there.
Oh, no, I didn't think it was that pleasant, in fairness. When you said, I thought it were completely all Los Santos. So, yeah. I don't know. Let's have a look at what's going on before I decide anything. But
we'll start with the home team. Everyone on a 7, with the exception of Maldini, who's on an 8. Agat and Tristan, who did have that goal disallowed. They're both on 6s. No yellow cards, and no one below 91% condition. As for yourself, Steve, you've got a few 6s dotted around there. Your goalkeeper, Abiati, the highest performer alongside Jonathan Woodgate, both rating 8s. Again, not a dirty game, this one. No yellow cards for yourself either. And fitness-wise, again, all in the 90s with the exception of Day, who's on 87.
I'll do Comanini for Tony, please, mate. Let's see if he's dropping to bench. He'll give him a bit of kick up the rear end that he may need.
Anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you, mate.
Let's wait to see if Jamie wants to do anything. Chance to say next round of fixtures will be on Thursday. I don't think I've got anyone yet confirmed for comms. So if you'd like to do it, please do let me know and we will sort that out. I'm also
please. Will somebody jump on Thursday, please, lads? Come on. We've all been doing it long enough to know what crack is. So,
and I need to discuss with my co-host as and when we will be recording the next episode of everyone's new favourite podcast, Late Limbs. I imagine we'll stick to Wednesday nights, but I haven't heard from him since I absolutely embarrassed myself on the last set of quizzes and forgot all about all the biggest players in Premier League history. Jamie's going as is. Again, the home side seem to be shading it at the moment as we've reached the hour mark. Bergkamp missing the last chance. Strong bench that for Los Santos, but it is certainly one of the stronger benches in my opinion. So they can definitely influence the game should Jamie wish to. Liz Razou there, his rating rocketing up to a 9 at the hour point. For me personally, there are definitely alterations that can be made from that bench to try and get the result. As for yourself, Steve, let's move over. Still a fair few 6s. Van Bommel isn't really enjoying life this evening. That's for sure. Gamara on the yellow. Day dropping to 79. How much do you want this win?
Right. Ursi for Dudley, please, mate.
Yep.
and put Ursay left AMC of Mackay.
Yep.
2 arrows on.
Yep.
Move call left CM.
CM.
Yeah. Van Bommel up to right CM. Contra back to DMR. Mileski out to DML. And long arrows to AMC on them. Please, mate.
Like that?
And can I have a diagonal arrow on call to AMC, please, mate? It put my phone as well. It's a good day.
Happy with that?
Yeah, that's the one, mate.
Lovely, thank you. And as for LSK, we've got Vasylyuk for Tristan, Del Piero for Bergkamp, longer arrows on the wing backs, forward arrow on Aymar, and that's it. Both teams really going for it, which I like to see in the last game of the night. Will all this attacking intent bear fruit for either or both managers? Half an hour to play. Let's find out. And it's Dudley with the first chance since the tactical break. And the Gats with a chance for LSK. Both sides throwing what they can at it. Slow this one down. 10 minutes to go. Last game of the evening. Comandini. Looks like there was 2 minutes being added on at the end of this game. Hersey. Barthez with a save, and it's a corner. Contro. Mackay. And Barthez gets his body around the ball. And Dudley have done it! First ever goal for Milewski. And LSK have been done late again. But Steve, huge goal right at the end of the game for you.
Yeah, it doesn't feel deserved that. Maybe, but unlucky Jamie May. But that's massive in whichever way our season may take a turn.
Yeah, huge result that. Looking at the stats here at the end, LSK, Barthez again putting in a decent performance. Lazan's actually ending on a 9 rating.
Why's Del Piero got an 8? I mean, I know he's against his old club, but I mean, he's made a tackle and he's completed some passes, but he's done nothing else. He's got an 8. It's mad. Absolutely mad.
Milewski, the match winner, picking up man of the match. Abiati, Woodgate as well, also rating 9s. You just had that little bit more on the night, it seems, Steve.
Yeah, and we don't. And I nearly said we don't get late winners, but it makes a nice change, in fairness.
Makes a nice change. And that means we have come to the end of the night. So here are the confirmed results. We had East Coast 1, Northern Burn 1, Exiles 2, Badgers 0, Foss Road 0, Vikings 2, Haggis 0, Sloths 1. Big night for the away teams this. LSK 0, Dudley 1, Sancte 1, Fulchester 1, and Stanley 3, Stackington 0. That means after 11 games, the table looks like this. Vikings top 23, Burn second 20, Stanley up to third 20, Coast fourth 19, Badgers fifth 18, Haggis 6 on 17. Below the dotted line, Sancte 17, Foss 14, Dudley 14, Exiles 13, Sloths up to 12, Fulchester 12, Stackington 9, and LSK 6. The fixtures for Thursday night. Badgers Stanley, huge game in the top 6. Dudley Sancte, huge game for those chasing the top 6. Foss LSK, before tonight's result, Smuts had already called that one a have to win. Fulchester Haggis, Northern Burn versus Exiles, Sloths entertain Coast, and top of the table Vikings host second bottom Stackington. Steve, it's been another eventful night in the Super League.
Yeah, it's been. To be fair, it feels one of them really drama-filled nights where there's been a lot of late carry-ons in games, a lot of chances in late, which, let's be honest, it's what it should be about. But I understand what Smuts was saying. You know, if you're playing bottom at league, like I said, it's a must-win if you want to try and keep pace. But Jamie's going to get results somewhere. That team's too good not to get results. So
yeah, no, completely agree. As I said, comms are available for Thursday. I'm also working on something which I'm hoping to have ready for Thursday as well. So it'll be well worth tuning in and making sure you're fully aware of all the goings on in the Super League. But until then, Steve, let me firstly thank you for your time this evening. It's nice to have had some company. Any final thoughts before we end the show?
Again, like I said when we first set off, it feels tighter than ever. Will the top sixes, will the top six end up like that, like it normally does? I don't know. Will we drift off? Will somebody come in? It's just, it's nice to see it as tight as it is, and anybody can do something at this present minute in time. So.
Absolutely. Well, from me and from Steve, thank you very much for your company this evening. Hope you've enjoyed the entertainment. I will see you again on Thursday. PAX most likely out before FRI tomorrow. Until then, good night.